welcome to Past, Present, and Future, or Three Questions, the podcast where we learn about people's career journeys, how they got to where they are today, and where they'd like to go to next. I'm Parrots Cohen, a technologist and a wordsmith, and in my time in industry, I've been fortunate to work with both large companies and small startups, alongside a number of very talented and hardworking individuals. This podcast is some of my conversations with them, where we learn about their journeys and what motivates them. If you'd like to be in the podcast, please feel free to reach out. You don't have to have a certain level of seniority or a number of years of experience. We all have something to share and learn from each other. If you'd like to sponsor the podcast or get involved in the collaboration, we'd also like to hear from you. All right, looking forward to our journey together as we learn more about each other and enrich ourselves in the process. Right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the podcast. On today's episode, we have Jamie. Hello, Jamie.
Hi, I'm happy to be here. Thanks for
So great
having
to
me.
so great to have you on. Let's start at the beginning. Where did your career begin? And what were those first steps?
Yeah. So my career began as a graphic designer. I think I'm currently in UX for those of you that don't know. But I think it's very common for people in my industry to start off as a graphic designer or in the visual industry. I did that for a decade, maybe a little bit more, and really realized through, feedback from coworkers and just my own interests that I really do have a technical side of me as well. I am very analytical. So that spurred me to go back to school for front end development. So I went back to school. I did some front end development for a couple years. I worked at Digital Globe in Longmont, Colorado, where I was a front end developer and was kind of missing the creative piece. So I went through the process. I learned, how developers think and solve problems, which I think really kind of helped me bridge that gap between the visual and then how it actually gets built, right? But then I learned that, you know what, I don't like being a developer. so so sometimes that happens, right? Along your journey is like it just wasn't enough creativity for me. And so I was like, okay, how can I marry these two talents, and that's where I found UX. I really feel like user experience, you meet with developers every day and you're able to get your hands a little bit dirty and speak their language and help them solve you know what they're building, but you are also representing the user and you're able to be creative and you're able to build those UIs in a very human centric way. So when I found UX, I was like, oh my gosh, like the sky opened and like, this is where I'm supposed to be. This is my happy place. So that's kind of how I got into UX. From Digital Globe, um, I had a great opportunity working in the Up for Google on the Boulder campus. So I went from being that front end developer back into creativity, was able to work on the Street View team, the Kaggle team, and the automotive team over at Google. So I was on 3 different teams, not all at the same time, separate time frames, but it was super fun. And I learned so much, as one does working at Google. I mean, you're just surrounded by so many like inspiring people. And then from there, a recruiter reached out to me from Hilton, which is where I'm currently working. And they were struggling with some resources on their messaging team. So they were interested in my experience with Google, working on Google Home, integrating that into automobiles. It kind of blended nicely with what they were looking for on their messaging team at Hilton. So they were building out their chatbot and their IVR and their customer support, but mainly their chatbot messaging to the guests. And so, yeah, that's how I got to where I am today, which is at Hilton working on their messaging team.
That's incredible. And I think like for me, like a really strong point that stands out is just how cross-functional our careers are these days, and in
Yeah,
any role, like in the kind of like you put it, when it comes to like human-centered design, really being able to adopt the perspective of not just kind of doing an empathy exercise, but having actually been in other roles and being able to see the other kind of important kind of business top line or kind of motivations in those other roles. Um, and that
exactly.
sounds, yeah, yeah. That's sounds like it's been an amazing career, and it's really been great to follow along and see all you've been working on at Hilton. So that's the past and the present. With the third
Yeah.
P in the podcast name, the future. Where would you like to take your career in the future? What are you passionate about? What drives you? What motivates you kind of as you look down the road?
Yeah. Yeah. So I love working at Hilton. I think it's an amazing team. So I want to, continue on my career growth and journey at Hilton. I want to learn more about AI and incorporating that. I mean, we have some plans for some AI capabilities in our chatbot. I don't know that I can like talk too much about it, but I'm really excited to sink my teeth into learning more about AI, which I think everybody is, right? It's just like it's happening, we're here, we're doing it. How can we use this as a tool, not only in our workflows, but for our guests, and can we make their lives easier at Hilton? So I'm going to continue to grow my career at Hilton, but also I would love to incorporate some projects into my life, maybe some volunteer work. I think I need to and would like to focus more on that well-roundedness of my career and adding those passion projects in. Over the last couple years, I had an unfortunate life circumstance where I had to leave a high conflict um, marriage, and through that, I learned I built my own. I used OpenAI to build my own co-parenting chatbot. um, I kind of use that rough, circumstance in my life to inspire me to build something positive. And noticed by building that, it was really taking all the emotion, not all, but most of the emotion out of the communication and really focusing on the children. And I would like to, make that public, publish that, or, use that to inspire others on that same type of journey, to really utilize our technology as a tool, not just at work, but in our own lives, right? In our personal lives, to just help us be better humans and use it as a tool to, I can tell this co-parenting chatbot anything I want to tell it, right? And it's gonna spit out something. It's going to strip out the emotion. It's going to make my conversation concise, and get to the root of the issue. So it really does save me a lot of time.
That's incredible. And that's
Yeah,
I mean, I think there's so many opportunities when it comes to kind of connecting personal passion to the types of things we could do at work or kind of our own projects. And there's so many great kind of low code tools out there these days to allow
yeah,
us to kind of to work on these things. Um,
exactly.
I guess like taking a step back, kind of looking back, and um, it sounds like a lot of kind of things came together to put you in a great position in where you are now. But is there something that you wish you had done differently, or kind of a piece of advice or something that you kind of learned along the way you would have told your younger self kind of in approaching your career?
Um, that's a really good question. So, I mean, advice that I always think about, that I think applies to everyone, but maybe women in particular, is that always be curious and continue learning. When I went back to school, I had a 1 and 3 year old. It was really intense. I literally rode my bike to campus at night to take night classes. Um, and I was exhausted, but I was curious, and I was open to learning how these visuals that I had been building for decades were being built. I feel like not too long ago, several years ago, developers were still kind of like in this black box of magic, right? Um, and so I think always be reading, always be learning. Um, Even if you're taking a break from working and you're staying home with children, or you're taking care of a senior citizen in your life or something, use that opportunity. Audiobooks, you know, read, sign up for an evening class, like anything you can fit in. Those little steps really do make a huge difference, I think. So just always staying curious, and learning is a lifelong venture. I never view learning as stopping or going away. I now have two teenage boys, and they're like, "Oh, I can't wait to be done with school." And I'm like, "You're never done with school." Although I do remember feeling that way, you're never done. And when you look at learning in that type of way, it's very exciting. And so, yeah, that would be my advice to literally everyone I talk to.
That's really powerful, and that kind of helps keep you fresh. And as the new technologies come out, and when you have that mindset of learning, it doesn't become something that's overwhelming or this is something else I have to learn. It's more of an opportunity. How can I learn? How can I
Absolutely.
deepen my toolbox? Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, it's great having you on the show today. I really appreciate you sharing your journey, and I've learned a lot from our conversation. I'm sure our listeners will as well. And wishing you much success in whatever comes ahead.
Thank you. Appreciate it.